Hello, my name is Kenzie Allen, and this is my final for CUL 142. Today I'm going to be showing you the science behind cooking steak, potatoes, asparagus, and red wine sauce. I'm not only going to explain how to cook this meal, but also what goes on behind the scenes, and how the molecules interact with each other to create an amazing final product. Okay, so let's get started. There are some food basics you need to know before you start cooking. So every food is made up of 4 basic food molecules: water, fat, carbs, and proteins. And these are the building blocks of everything that we consume. Cooking, the definition of cooking is it's the process of transferring heat from a heat source to the food that you want to cook. So the food molecules, as they heat up, they'll move faster and faster and faster. And as the moving molecules start to collide with each other, the bonds will start to break, and they'll react to form brand new structures that help create new unique flavors, which is what you taste when you eat food. Alright, so for some cooking basics, there's 3 cooking methods: conduction, convection, and radiation. Convection is the process of heating up the surroundings in order to heat up the food itself. So think of like the oven or an air fryer. And then conduction cooking is when you heat up the surface to transfer the heat to the food. So that's like the stove top or the grill. And finally we have radiation cooking, which is just like the microwave there. And that's when you use radiation waves to heat up the water molecules within the food. Okay, so the key to gaining great flavor in food is Maillard reactions. And that's when the food molecules begin to brown from the heat. And you can kind of see that when you see the grill marks on the surface of a piece of meat, or the crust on a piece of bread. And the interaction of the molecules creates a really intense flavor, and that's going to be super key when I cook my steak. And to achieve the Maillard reaction, I'm going to be using a metal pan, specifically because metal is the best material for conducting heat. So it'll really help with the conduction heating to achieve a really strong Maillard reaction. Okay, so for the protein aspect of my meal, I decided to make ribeye steaks, and I'm going to season it with some fresh herbs and some spices. So steak is a type of red meat, which means it comes from muscles in the animal that are used really frequently. And the cells, which are also called the muscle fibers, are supplied with oxygen and fats in order to fuel all this movement. And since there's so much fat being supplied to the cells, that means that red meat has a higher fat content, which makes it much juicier when it's cooked. The fat is also what gives it its distinct flavor, because the makeup of the fat is made up by its diet, the species of animal, and a couple other specific aspects of the animal. So that's why that steak tastes the way it does compared to other meats like chicken or lamb. So my steak is going to be coated in fresh thyme and rosemary from my garden, along with garlic, salt, pepper, and some olive oil. And herb coatings act as a sort of barrier between the heat and the meat, so that keeps the meat from getting overcooked and makes it more juicy as well. Okay, so for the steak, you're going to want to use really fresh herbs because that's what's going to give you the most flavor for the aromatics. So I'm out here at my garden. Is the rosemary plant I'm going to use, and right here is my thyme, which is looking a little rough right now. It's been going through some stuff in the cold weather, but this is going to be its last hurrah. So here I've gotten together all of my ingredients. I've got my ribeye steaks, which have been resting for 30 minutes to come to room temperature, and then over here I've got my ingredients for my herb and spice coating. I've got olive oil, salt, pepper, rosemary, thyme, and garlic. So I'm going to mix those together and show you. Alright, here's my steak with the herb crust on it. So I'm going to let this sit for a second, and I'm going to prepare all my ingredients for my sauce. Of what? Okay, so now on to my favorite vegetable of all time, and that's going to be asparagus, and that's why I chose to do today. So asparagus is really rich in 2 chemicals, dimethyl sulfide and a bunch of sulfide volatiles. And that's what creates that bitter taste, but you can counteract that with an acidic element, so I'm using lemon. And I'm also going to season my asparagus today. with garlic and a couple other aromatics. After asparagus is harvested, the ends start to get more and more woody and fibrous, so the first step is always to cut the bases off or snap them off just so that you can have a good even consistency throughout the whole stalk. And I'm going to be cooking it in the air fryer, which is a type of convection heat in which the heat transfers to the air, which then transfers to the food. And the air fryer works really efficiently and is able to cook the food super evenly. So here is all of my ingredients for the asparagus already prepped. I've got the olive oil, freshly squeezed lemon juice, garlic powder, garlic cloves, black pepper, and salt. And then here's all of my asparagus stalks, and I've already snapped the ends off. So this is a little bit of an odd method, but we're going to put all of these ingredients together inside this plastic bag, and that's going to help get the asparagus super evenly coated and all of that. Okay, now onto the starch. I chose to do herbed fingerling potatoes for my starch. Potatoes are an incredibly versatile food, and there's so many different varieties of them, and you can do hundreds of things with potatoes. For me, I'm going to be roasting them. So potatoes are full of starch. Starch itself is like a really hard, grainy molecule, but it starts to soften as you heat it up. So I'm going to be using convection heating when I roast them in the oven in order to raise the temperature and soften up those starch granules to get a smoother texture. I chose fingerling potatoes because they're a type of mealy potato. This means that while it is cooking, the cells will begin to separate, which creates a really fine, dry, and fluffy texture. And this is different from the other type of potatoes called waxy potatoes, which instead become super dense and solid as you cook them. I'm going to be serving my potatoes with lots of aromatics. I'm going to use a blend of spices called Herbes de Provence, which is a blend containing rosemary, garlic, lavender, thyme, parsley, tarragon, marjoram, basil, sage, and chervil. These aromatics, although really small in number, I'm only going to be using a little bit, provide a super big amount of flavor to the food, not only through the taste, but also in the smell, which is really essential to flavor. So let's cook those. Alright, so right here I've got my bowl of fingerling potatoes, garlic, salt, pepper, herbes de Provence, and olive oil. So you're going to go ahead and add your garlic in. And then next we're going to go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of herbes de Provence. Okay. And then next you're going to go ahead and you're going to go in with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Alright, and then next you're going to go in with 1 teaspoon of salt, and then just a little bit of a sprinkle of pepper. Alright, and then you're going to go ahead and toss this together. When you're done with that, this is what your potatoes should look like. So next you're going to spread them out on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. And you're going to preheat your oven to 450 at this point. Alright, and then right after this you're going to put them in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so the final component in today's meal is going to be the sauce. So I'm going to be making a red wine pan sauce once the steak is done. And as the alcohol in the red wine starts to heat up, the molecules are going to move faster and faster, and they're going to start breaking those bonds that are holding them together. And then the molecules are going to get flung up into the air, and that's how the alcohol evaporates. So the sauce, although it's based in red wine, will not be alcoholic. It won't make you drunk. Okay. And the sauce is going to be cooked in the same pan that the steak was cooked in. So all those food particles left over from the steak, those are going to be dissolved into the base liquid of the sauce, which is going to add much more flavor. It's going to really incorporate into the sauce and make it delicious. But to make it even more flavorful, we're going to use butter. Butter is one of the major components in the sauce, and butter begins to brown at around 250 degrees, which is a type of Maillard reaction, brown butter. and it makes it taste really good. It makes it foam, and it's gonna really deepen the flavor of the sauce. So we're gonna start that right now. Here's all the ingredients for the sauce, along with the stuff left over in the pan. Once our shallots are softened, we can go in with the wine, and then we're gonna let that reduce. This is just gonna be deglazing the pan. We can see now the wine is reduced because it's a lot thicker and it's like only half there. So now we can go in with the beef broth. And then we're going to let this simmer until it gets thick again. Alright, and here is the final product. Alright, here is the sauce. And this is what that looks like cut into. You can see it's super moist. And these potatoes have a great Maillard reaction. They're super crispy. And you can see that sauce is pretty thick. It's shiny. Alright, so now for the conclusion. Let me grab the plate. Right here, this is the final product. And it was super, super good. I mean, you can see the Maillard reaction and all of the browning on it. It was very delicious. But yeah, so let's recap what we've learned in this video. There are 4 basic food molecules that make up every single thing we eat. And those are carbohydrates, protein, water, and fats. And those molecules interact to form brand new structures. And that changes the quality of food as it cooks. Cooking is the transfer of heat, and it speeds up molecular movement to create more of those molecule interactions. So food science is essentially the study of those interactions and what they mean to our palate and how it changes the taste, texture, any aspect of the food. It's a part of every single thing that we do when we're in the kitchen. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you later.